Okay, welcome everybody. This is exciting. A good crowd. Tonight, our classmate and friend, David Rikert, will continue his career in education by helping us uncover some of the little principles we've learned and their application to the challenges we are facing at this time in our life. I shouldn't say little, big principles, hopefully. After Williams, David attended Oxford, taught for a time, attended Harvard, obtained an MBA, joined Nike, taught again, helped run a bed and breakfast with his wife, and is now involved with a continuous care facility in Portland. Borrowing a description from David's LinkedIn page, I'm pleased to turn the session over to David Reichert, our able minister of many portfolios. David?
LinkedIn.
You didn't even
What's
know that's so old.
that? So it's nice to be here. It's actually imposing to be here. Looking at all of you, a number of you have led these sessions and done such amazing things over careers. It feels a little bit hypocritical for me to be talking, but I look forward to spending some time with you. Now let's of course, I have to use PowerPoint, so we'll share that. First, this we hope will be a very interactive session. We'll have two breakout groups, and I anticipate asking questions as we go along. So if you want to participate that way, it's useful to be able to unmute. It's useful to be able to raise your hand. And note that we all have choices in how we view the screen, and we may want to do it differently when in a presentation mode than when we're in small groups. So, Margie and I live here, the CCRC, Portland, Oregon, 500 members. Started in 1962 with that big building, sort of serpentine. We live in the circle in this new building, 2023. And one thing living here, this is a senior community. And this becomes much more apparent living in a concentrated group of seniors like this than in a mixed group. Every day we're confronted with somebody's aged a little more. So that's today, and we'll come back to that. But let's go way back. Who's the fellow with the goggles?
It's your ski coach.
Coachy.
Coachy, Ralph Townsend, who is also a 10th Mountain Division veteran. And who are the skiers there? Recognize any of them?
George Tuthill.
And James
Consequence.
Allen. Little Red, Jimmy Allen there, and Charlie Wolcott, who was a year behind us. And on the right, that's how I spent my college time, talking with Ralph and skiing or training. And it was really there that I really learned about competition. So now let's go forward to 1983. I was invited to write a business school case study on a company I'd never heard of called Nike. Who's the guy on the left? Anybody recognize him?
Bill Bowerman.
Bill Bowerman, track coach at the University of Oregon and a 10th Mountain Division veteran. How about the fellow in the center?
That looks like Phil.
Philip H. Knight, who was a runner on Bowerman's team. The runner that's circled there in the blue oval.
Prefontaine.
Fontaine, yeah. He was sort of the first athlete who endorsed Nike and is really the spirit of Nike as a complete maverick, but a brilliant runner and a brilliant proponent for the athlete. And of course, down in the bottom there is the iconic Hayward Field, which is sort of the sacred ground for Nike. Now, I felt when I started doing the case study, I was at home because this was a group of competitors. Now, let me give you a little bit more feel for this company called Nike. Think of your first day on a new job. I had moved across country, left two sons and Margie back in the East, Margie still at school. While I knew some of the people, I was, as we probably all have been, concerned. So, first day in the office, walk into my boss's office. Now, for context, this is fall '83. The World Track and Field Championships have been in Helsinki. Mary Decker, a Nike athlete from Eugene, had won the 3,000-meter final. And I walk in and my boss says, Rikert, you gotta see this. Turns around, puts a videotape in, and this is what he showed me.
The Soviet lead too soon and fell down. Mary Decker has the double.
1983, she beat a Russian in both of those finals. Competitors, I felt at home. Another taste of Nike in those days. List of principles. I'll let you read them. Typewritten, because there really weren't computers back then. And this was just one of those things that was sort of around. It wasn't published, it wasn't a slideshow, but gives a feel, I think, for the company. So, one of the things we all have probably grappled with is decisions that feel hard to us, whatever their absolute magnitude. To us, they feel hard. Do we do this or do that? And over my years with Nike, what emerged again and again and again was, whatever the situation, try to work back to what is the principle here. Now, let me give you an example. 12 years gone by, November 1995, I've been asked to go to Nike, to Europe, about which I knew next to nothing. This is a lot of context. Nike was in transition from a bunch of independent-owned distributors to Nike-owned sales offices. And you can imagine some of the tensions around that. Each country used to have its own warehouse, but now that was centralized, giving the countries what they felt much less control. While I knew one or two people, I really didn't know the management team. And while I knew Nike, I really didn't know the business and legal and social environment in Europe. We'd heard stories about the country work councils, particularly in Germany, where they sit on the managing boards and have a vote. And that was something that was quite foreign to us. So I get there, November 95, and I find that the company and my predecessor had done nothing about this European Community Directive for over a year, and we had to make a decision to give to the EC by the end of December. Not a call to works council, but it's not decision making. Wasn't required, but it was expected. And symptomatic of the fact that nothing had been done. Hey, Rikert, what are you going to do? It's your call. So Larry, let's go to breakout groups, talk for 5 minutes, catch up, but also what do you recommend this person trying to find his way in Europe with some tensions between the country and headquarters? What should he do?
Okay, I'll tell you what I've done. I've broken you up into 6 groups, and I'm going to assign in each group. In the first group, if Ted McPherson would act as moderator. Second group, Burke Moody. Third, David McCarron. Fourth, Ken Wilcox. And fifth, Paul Lipoff. And the sixth, Ron Bodenson. If you'll lead the discussion and ask each person to participate, going to have 5 minutes in the breakout room. I'll stop the breakout rooms and you'll get a 30-second to come back in. But chat about if you're in Dave Reichert's shoes and what would you do? Establish a Nike European Works Council? Yes or no? Is Alan good, Alan? I was going to say to start it again. I've given David the moderators in each group, and he's going to call on each one of you to say how you voted. And I think he's going to start with Ted McPherson, who was in group 1.
Okay, our group was pretty much unanimous on to start a council, be very aware of the cultural issues and be flexible to make modifications as go along. But it was pretty much, let's go and sort of figure it out on the way. Paying particular issue to culture. And interestingly, in our group, several of the fellows had experience overseas in Europe with similar kinds of situations.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Burke?
Burke Moody, you'd have to unmute.
Yes, I do. There I am. Better?
Yes.
Oh, good. Our group was unanimous as well to establish the council. A couple of members of our group, had lived and worked in Europe, and were somewhat familiar with the idea of work councils. One of the questions was how big an operation was it for Nike, and how cumbersome would that be to deal with? But in general, I think it's fair to say everybody thought it was a good idea to establish it and run with it for at least a while.
Thank you. But we were, let's say, 1,000 people in Europe.
So would the work council in Europe have covered all of Europe or just Germany or?
No, the whole Europe. This was a European Work Council was the request, or the European Community Directive.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
McCarron?
You're muted, Dave. You're muted.
I have a head cold and I've been coughing. We had one dissent, but otherwise the other 4 felt that there was no way David was going to avoid this challenge.
Were you the dissenter, Dave?
One thing about living in Portland with him is I've had
I was going to say.
gotten to know him a little bit better than I did at Williamstown.
What was the dissenter's point of view?
I think his comment was he wanted to be sort of cantankerous.
I think that's the word to use, something like that. No specific reason. The issue of culture came up in everybody's thinking that you had to bridge that.
Ken and Wilcox?
Well, we didn't actually take a vote, but I think we sort of assumed that the council would be the way to go, but with all kinds of minefields out there, like culture that we've already talked about. Some countries might be more advanced in this kind of thing than others in the market. And how do you get the Italians and and the Germans on the same wavelength and all? So we saw all kinds of challenges, but felt that, the sense of our group was that, we were heading in this direction with a council.
Thank you, Ken. Paul Lipoff?
We all felt like our backs were up against the wall, that we're trying to make a decision with incomplete information. And that basically mirrored Dave's position, the situation he was in. So we kind of felt for you, Dave. Most of us thought that it was probably, as a new company coming into Europe, it made sense to go along to get along and not to ruffle feathers. But some of us, mainly me, saw it as creeping socialism. And and I'd put up a fight, but it's not my company. So the majority was to go with it, but keep your eyes open to see where it's really leading, what it's leading to.
Can I make another comment on this?
It's your show.
I don't know what the options might have been, but it might have been possible to set up country-specific work councils instead, and then maybe have some sort of overall, I won't say steering committee, but that would at least give you a culturally coherent group at a local level. I also don't know how widely distributed the Nike workforce was, and if they were concentrated in certain places and not so much in others. Those things would make a difference, I think.
Thank you. Ron Bodenson?
Yeah, I think a couple of us thought Dave should just quit and climb Mount Blanc for the next year. But those who were thinking it through, I think, had the idea of trying to accommodate to the local cultures. And yet you've got Europe, which is like 10 different local cultures. Yeah. So exactly how do you smooth that over compared to Nike's Seattle US culture? But I think the majority thought go local, and maybe this idea of individual country councils really does make sense. And three of us were Peace Corps people, and we'd never pay attention to Washington. We'd just do what the locals thought was best.
Thank you.
To me, it all sounded like we were trying, the expression herding cats came to mind,
Or pushing strings. Interesting, the local idea, each country had its own works council that was a part of the legal framework. Some of them were very aggressive and active, like Germany, where literally the works council had to agree to management decisions. In the Netherlands, where we were based, it was less aggressive, but each country with its own laws had its own work council. And interestingly, I actually don't even remember thinking about the concept of going to those. Anyway, let me share my screen here a second. And I didn't know what to do. I was pretty certain that Beaverton, which is what we called the headquarters back here in the US, would not be a big fan of this, because it sounds like unions. I was pretty sure there was a lot of tension about headquarters in Europe starting to dictate to countries. So would this be another, here comes, we were known as Hilversum again, et cetera, et cetera. But so was pushing myself back to what's the principle here. And at the core, I just felt at Nike, we have to stand for talking with our people. So we created IFNAT. 2 representatives from each country, the big warehouse, the headquarters. They took at least 6 months to make this happen. Getting the countries on board, they had to set up elections. We then had to get everybody together, create a charter, have all the representatives sign it literally. But we got it going, and I'll have a story here in a minute that illustrates how we used it. And in fact, when I got back to Beaverton in 99 or 2000, I really missed it as a way to just be able to talk with people across the company. So this sort of principle behind this was this statement here, that again and again and again was the basis for choices that we made. Believing that the heart and mind, if people really volunteered them, that's what made Nike special. That led to the great product, to getting things done, to building connections with the athletes. So remember this period, late 90s, the labor conditions in Asia and the very aggressive efforts by a number of groups to attack companies like Nike. In Europe, where Nike as an American company was suspect anyway, you can imagine the impact on employees. They're having dinner with friends on the weekend. Somebody says, "Oh, you work for Nike, that company that employs slave labor?" I felt this was a real concern because we needed people to volunteer their hearts and minds. So one thing we did, management can talk to blue in the face about how we're working, et cetera. So we sent the, whatever it was, 20 IFNET representatives to Asia, said, go to the factories, we'll give you access, talk with anybody, and you come back and tell the people in your country, in your facility, what you found, warts and all. And we had confidence that people would, when they were seeing what was being done in the factories, in those countries that are very different, that they would say, our company is trying to do the right thing. There are problems, but we're doing good stuff. And I think that helped and was invaluable from my perspective in being able to address this issue that we faced at that point. Other principles that emerged over time. You can probably see where this one comes from, Nike being a track and field company, a company based on track and field athletes and that sport. This was the foundation of our compensation program. It's the team that wins or loses. So when we developed what became known as a performance sharing program, it was based on the results of the whole company. And as that worked its way down, if there was in fact good performance to share, which there was most years, yes, it could be tailored within a country, within a work group to the individuals who were really making a difference would get a little more. But it was the team that won or lost. That was one principle. Here's another one. You saw this on that typewritten sheet. This was a constant fight against what I call the job description mafia. The tremendous pressure to just to specify exactly what my job is so I can do it and then I can get rewarded for the job that I do, whether that's an individual or a division, but it's the team that wins or loses. And boy, this was hard to combat over time because people want to, well, just tell me exactly what to do. Well, we're not going to win if we do that. Yes, you have to give people a good sense of what we're trying to do, but so this was a big deal. But that's the principle behind that. When years later, after I retired, I'd go back to the climbing gym, once or twice a week, and I loved asking a relatively new employee, huh, what did you do that helped the brand win today? The brand win today? And they'd look at me, what? And I said, well, if you're doing something that isn't helping the brand win, what are you doing? And just another one. This came out of Bowerman. And the reality, I mean, Nike, we were trying to be a world champion, but you can overtrain. This lay behind the establishment of a sabbatical program. After you've been with Nike 5 years, you get 6 weeks to just get away. And then 5 years later, that's one example. But trying to coach people to, yes, we need everybody to work hard, but you can overtrain. You have to find a way to keep balance that works for you in your life. So those are just examples that lay behind uh, some of the decisions that I was involved with and some of the practices that we established over time. So now let's go to now. Margie and I moved in a year ago. Didn't know what we'd particularly do. By chance, we decided to take the route of getting involved quickly. Many people say, well, we'll take a year. We have to finish our downsizing. We want to just try this group or that group, et cetera, et cetera. We said we want to get involved. And by chance, one of the things I became involved with and am involved with is this committee here. In a community like this, a lot can go wrong. I mean, we live right above an entrance to this building, and I'd say every other day there's an ambulance out there, often with the fire department. And say, so I run down, is it a medical emergency or something else? And often it's a medical, a fall, a stroke, a heart attack, something feels wrong. And we live, a lot can go wrong, but a lot can go wrong on other scales. Wildfire smoke. It's almost impossible to go out of a building back then. Oh, we had a pandemic and trying to figure out what to do in a senior, so I wasn't here then, but a senior living facility with vulnerable people, etc. Huge challenge. Heat dome. And we have that big building, that original one. All those are east-facing windows. Imagine the sun coming in there. Power outages in the winter extended 2-3 days. And then, of course, we know that the big one is coming. Hopefully, as I keep saying, it will wait until we're watching it from up above rather than in the midst of it. But this is sort of a context why emergency readiness feels like it's relevant in our community to pay attention to. So here's the reality. We are all getting older, and we're spending more time dealing with our physical ailments or mental issues or friends that have problems. We're slowing down. So how do we address building a robust ability to respond to emergencies in an environment where we're all getting older and we all will age out before too long? So back to what's the principle here? And as I thought about it and we talked about it, we really went to this. In emergencies, what over time, again and again, it's neighbors who provide the initial help. Neighbors are there. So how do we build a environment here where we're thinking neighbors helping neighbors? We all have neighbors. We live on floors. We all can help. The earthquake dominates too much our thinking. And people, it's so easy to say, oh, I'll be dead anyway. I don't have to prepare. Or I can't deal with, somebody who's bleeding or somebody who's trapped under something. I can't do with that. Wait a second, we all can help. And maybe that's, yeah, I can put an arm around somebody who's feeling really cold and scared because we're third day of a power outage in February. I can help. So this is the kind of thing that we are working on. And a couple just simple example. I mean, this is live stuff. I'm spending far too much time trying to grapple with this and help us all move this way. One step, this is what the committee has been called for 6 or 8 years. Nope. Disaster was scaring people. I can't deal with it, So wait a second, but I have dealt with smoke. I have dealt with a heat thing, and I have dealt with people on my floor having something happen. I can help with that. One change that is helping. Another change, tremendous amounts of great work describing what do you do in all of these emergencies. How much does something like that get read? Not much. It's just too much, especially as we get older. Make it simple. Make it more visual. Constant effort. And the underlying question, how do we, as we age, find ways to continue contributing based upon the experiences we've had, while we are also aging and we are working with people around us who are aging. So that's really a question for us all to explore in breakout groups. What are we experiencing? How can we contribute as we go forward, as we're older? Things we've learned, some of which are probably relevant, some of which probably aren't. But anyway, so the opportunity here in breakout groups, Larry, if you can shift us to just talk about the ideas that hopefully this has stimulated a bit in your minds.
We're going to give a chance for the same people that go in the same group, and I'm going to ask the same moderators if I could, Ted, Burke, David, Ken, Paul and Ron to help listen to other people's opinions. And in this case, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions and answers about some of the principles we've learned, and you want to discuss whether they're helping you at all now.
Larry,
Yes.
could we ask David to say one more time what's he expecting of the breakout groups?
Yeah, go ahead.
A good discussion. And not trying to draw you back into Nike. I'm not trying to draw you into the emergency readiness. Really, I'm trying to suggest that we are all grappling with, as we age, how do we contribute based upon our experiences and the things we've learned, the principles we've developed for how we work with people, how we try to get stuff done in a context in which we are getting older. And we are often working with people who are getting older. And just things like, for example, succession planning. I can't say, well, somebody's going to have to replace me on this committee. Well, where are the 40-year-olds? Well, they aren't here. This is a little different environment. And my guess is we all are dealing with this sort of thing in some way. And here's an opportunity to just talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to give you 15 minutes. There's going to be a 1-minute call to come back. And I'm just curious personally, how many people are overcommitted and how many people have just given up? That's my question. Okay, here we go.
Involved. Thank you, Alan.
Unmute. Did you have a good discussion, Alan?
We did.
Okay, the recording has started. I think everybody's back. David, back to you.
Good to see everybody.
Are you on vacation again in the mountains, David? What's going on?
Yeah, that's Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
So, Dave, since you spoke up, in your group, was there somebody who had a perspective that their principle or something they're grappling with that they might be willing to share with us all briefly?
Who are you calling on?
Dave McCarron as group leader to is there somebody in the group as opposed to trying to summarize?
Well, clearly this issue that you're grappling with is how you plan for things that go wrong. I don't think there's any question the 5 of us are thinking about that and sort of constantly because the things that are going to go wrong for most of us by far are going to be things that are potentially lethal. And that's what you really need to be concerned about. And your point that when you hang out over your balcony, there's an ambulance and a fire truck there. So we all need to be thinking about it. And we did think about it. Mm-hmm. And everybody described other ways, several different ways that they've become connected in the neighborhood they're in now. Mm-hmm. I think an issue that drives a lot of people is how close are you to the next generation? Are they near you? Mm-hmm. We have 2 down in California and 2 within a half a mile of our house. One's a doctor, that's good. One is a property manager, that's good. And without those connections, there's a lot of things in our lives that would not be as interesting. Yeah. But every Saturday morning, we have to go watch AAU basketball because one of our grandchildren will be disappointed, and my son, who's a Williams graduate, doesn't let us go. So family is critical.
There because because of time, but thank you. Connections to family certainly bring lots of people to Terwilliger Plaza from around the U.S. because children have settled here. Ron Botenson, from your group, is there somebody? You're still muted, Ron.
Yeah, they didn't like my report the last time, but I'll make another report. It was interesting. Like one of us lives in a community that's people are very involved, maybe 86 freestanding homes, a condo, but what they're involved in is maintaining the community. You know, how do you get the roof done? How do you get the snow removed? And all that's done by a board and cooperation. But there's no consideration to emergency preparedness. We're not waiting for the hurricane or the tornado or the earthquake or the fire. It just, no one's given much thought to it. Maybe we all lost our power 13 years ago for a couple of days. So that's interesting. I think that community needs to think about it. Another mentioned having community in another setting of music, and a large group that been very well continued, people from 50 to 80. And another member of our group said, well, why don't you use that community to think about emergency preparedness? Because you're all live in the same area. Why not spin off? You have a group of 50 or 80. They don't need to live right next to each other. Think about having some thought of that group being a nucleus. Another who lives in a community said, well, what the focus there is not so much getting the snow removed and the roofs repaired, it's taking care of each other. Personal errands, groceries, go to the airport, do those kinds of things. And again, they may have a big snow, but they really haven't thought about emergency preparedness as a group. So I think you've sort of caught people thinking about, now causing us to think about ER instead of just maintenance.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Ted McPherson, your group?
Yeah, let me just summarize because we had some very good, effective solutions. One had to do with the municipal leadership in a senior community in Southern California, doing everything from managing traffic carefully to environmental awareness, things that have a particular relevance to the 60 or 70% of that population in that community that's over 65 years of age. A second thought was the value of staying active in many ways, including public service, volunteer work, being a failure at retirement for some people, meaning staying very active. And that was also expressed and demonstrated by one of our members of our group who had just come from the office where he started at 8 o'clock this morning and arrived 5 minutes before this Zoom session started. One thought from a participant in our group was he found he had grown more kind toward people and softened his approach with people as opposed and become a better listener and more collaborative person, more interpersonally astute than when he was younger and a little more forceful and conscious of imposing his own will. And then commonly, our group mentioned the importance of family, as David McCarron expressed well, children, grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Burke?
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of members of our group are living in structured places, either apartment buildings or continuing care communities. And a number of us are still living in single family homes by ourselves, confronting the issue of what happens when the time comes that you really have to move out or get help, living help in. One of our people said that they had that was their intent originally, and they're now planning in the next year and a half to move into a facility. That decision had come about. They did a ton of research and made that decision. The people who are living in the larger buildings, facilities with people, uh, communication and socialization were really, really important to them. And to make that happen, either through the activities of the organizations or personally making those connections, actively doing it, which can be a challenge for some people and for others not so much. But yeah, it's an interesting and challenging time for all of us at this age, and
Sure is.
you know,
Thank you. Ken Wilcox.
Well, I think our group recognized that it was important that we stay tuned in to each other, and it varies based on where you live. As Burke was saying, if you're in a single family home neighborhood, that's one thing. If you're in multifamily housing or something like that, it's a little bit different, but how you go about it. But it sort of gets back to old Mike Roizen's posse philosophy that the more people that you have around you that you're interacting with, the better everybody in that group is because you know the people better. You know what their ailments are, and if they don't surface in a couple of days, you better knock on their door and get help. One person in our group belongs to a 300 person organization that is basically a connector. And that just it keeps them together. They know when someone has a problem, needs help. So it seems to be just various ways of staying in contact, having a network that you can rely on, and that the members of the network can respond if you or someone else has a problem.
Yeah, neighbors helping neighbors. Thank you. And hey, Paul, quickly, Paul Lipoff.
Mute.
Paul's on mute.
Dave,
Paul,
you get him in
unmute.
here.
There we go.
There you go.
We reacted to Larry's question. Have we given up? Or are we still in the ball game? And our group was very much in the ball game. We reacted to that question, and many of us get a lot of meaning from volunteering and helping out with family. Some of us are still, some of our group are still working and getting a lot of satisfaction from their work. There was I think it was a general concern about legacy and what we're going to leave behind. And I would say all of us considered the next generation and grandchildren kind of the key component, and the way we lived our lives, how we were as fathers and grandfathers and husbands, and the work we did, and how that translated into a legacy was very important. And we shared with what Ted said in terms of mellowing and having more appreciation and understanding of others, and the benefit of letting people tell their stories, getting to know other people, and appreciating how how special the people that we live with in our communities are. And there's so many talented, special people that if you just sit down and talk with them, you'll find out, or you give them the opportunity to open up to you.
Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
So, thank you all very much. Larry, back to you to wind us up. You're muted, Larry.
Can't have
David,
that. Can't have
David, could I
Larry
throw
muted.
something in? There's another solution here. We could all move to the Bay Area where Bob Conway has a house that is earthquake proof, a barn filled with booze and water and food, and it's for his local community. He's a single man ER, but why don't we just all move out by him? That's the solution.
I've got two announcements, but before I do, after I make the announcements, those who want to stay on, David is willing to stay on for another 15 minutes, but I just want to raise a hand. Just raise your hand quickly. How many people feel at this stage they're overcommitted, given their talents, what they're asked to do, and whether they're doing too much and want to back off a little bit? I'm just curious. Okay. Next Zoom session. Next Zoom session, November 20th. Peter Krause is going to tell us about tick-borne infections, going from one coast to the other, and tick-borne infections. And then soon, and I think literally in the next week or so, you'll be getting a complete details on a pre-60th trip to Montgomery, Alabama. Remember, Ted McPherson was kind enough to open his house, and a number of us went to down to see some of the period of the Civil War period. Montgomery, Alabama, June 4th to 7th, hosted by Don Brown. Please put that on your calendars. You're going to get an invitation. June 4th to 7th, 2026.
And Larry, Don Brown is right here.
Yeah, I'll go to him in a minute. We'll get to the birthplace of the Civil Rights Movement, able to visit many of the historic sites, museums, monuments, and Don can tell you why he needs people to show their interest quickly. So Don, go ahead. Got to unmute.
Unmute, Don. Unmute.
I'm coughing because I've got a 100-degree temperature and I've got a cold, so it's a bit of a struggle. We look forward to sending you the full agenda. The fun part is that during our years at Williams, 63, 67, a lot happened in the world of civil rights that we knew about peripherally, but we were more interested in Smith, Vassar, Holyoke, Wellesley, and some ballgame or ski slope. And you'd catch up to the rest of the world. I have a couple of scholars that can give us a description of events and times and cultural attitudes. It's not strident preaching, but just informative. And there are some world-class sites and things that you will want to see. And I hope a lot of downtime in between. I'm told that you like naps. So
they're good for you.
You got some stretch time and some evening time to collaborate and get to know each other again after so long. So we want to do both, give you a string of things that are really informative to see. You'll be right downtown in Montgomery. There are walking sites close to things that really matter. An evening at my house for a couple of fun things. And we look forward to it. Just let us know so we can. The hotel we'll be staying in is really a boutique place, really nice downtown. A lot of it's walkable. And the question is, when you get this roster, take a look at the things that we have in mind that are options for you. Some things are absolutely mandatory, and I need to actually book some reservations. So let us hear from you. Give it some thought.
Don's being very kind. He's going to host us, but I must say that probably we may not be able, given how excited people may be to want to go to Montgomery and what's available, we may not be able to host everybody. Don, do you think there might be a limit on the numbers or not?
We will manage. We've it's a big house and a back porch. Okay. A cigar and a glass of bourbon, he'll be fine.
Well, there's the ending for this evening. Ron Bodenson and I have already got our orders in for various bourbons. So if you want to put at the bottom of the sheet, if you're not a bourbon drinker, you're out of luck.
Larry,
thank you. Yes.
Ken Wilcox wanted to make an announcement. Remember?
Okay, Kenny.
Let me unmute here. Okay, no, we're looking ahead at some of the future Zoom meetings, and one of the ones we want to do probably shortly after the first of the year, maybe in January, would be a Zoom session on classmates who've gone into the military after graduating and what their experiences were. And so we'll be sending out probably an invitation to the class to let us know if any of our classmates did go in the military and would be willing to participate in a Zoom, probably a panel discussion of some sort. And that'll be after the first of the year.
Very good idea, Ken.
Could I add one thing? That our group discussed that at our age, time is limited, and that we should just as a good motto for our age group would be just do it.
That's a
I
catch.
think
That's a catchy.
We thought that would work.
on that
Might work for a company motto.
on that note, Paul, on that note, David, we can't thank you enough.
Paul.
Thank
you, Paul.
A lot of effort on the preparation. And those of you who want to stick around, David, you're willing to stick around till the end of the half hour.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.